Welcome to the Ninja Chuan podcast. My name is Isaac Kamens. This is a bi-weekly podcast where my friend Jess O'Brien and I discuss internal martial arts, Qigong, and meditation. This week we continue our discussion on Xiang's martial arts by way of the 1999 Journal of Asian Martial Arts interview with Marcus Brinkman. We discuss the connection between Tuina, the bodywork of Xiang, and martial arts. And also we go into a bit about what it was like to train in Hung's class, so what the sort of the daily routine was in the class. And then in our Patreon, we continue with the story of Bruce arriving at Xiang school. He's just wrapped up his first challenge matches and is now getting some advice from Hung. So if you'd like to subscribe to the Patreon, you can follow the link in the description of the episode and subscribe for $5 a month or $10 a month. Gets you the entire archive. In addition, you also get all the regular episodes ad-free, as well as a bonus episode to come out with every regular episode. In addition, you also get the entire archive of all our interviews and past episodes. Hope you enjoy the episode. Thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting us, and take care of yourselves.
In today's episode, we return to the Internal Martial Arts of Taiwan, an interview with Marcus Brinkman by Kevin Craig. This is in the famed Journal of Asian Martial Arts, Volume 8, Number 2 from 1999, published by Via Media. Michael DeMarco put it out for many years. He's still doing stuff and still publishing online. So I encourage everyone to go get a PDF from Michael. He sells articles from old issues of JAMA. There's a couple great articles over the years about Chinese internal martial arts, quite a few. And, there's some amazing stuff. So I recommend that you go check some of these out because it's kind of one of the best martial arts magazines ever in a way. Like, there's Inside Kung Fu and some of those, which are more the pulp ones, but like Journal of Asian Martial Arts was more the literary, scholarly, more professionally produced one. You've got some of them, right, Isaac? This has always been well respected.
Just the ones you left over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff. I think it's sort of the next generation after the Bagua Journal. Took the mantle of trying to go a little more in depth with these things rather than just pictures of dudes trying to look tough. And
I don't believe there was any Bruce Lee issues.
Right.
Which tells you something. Like, this is actually, meaningful.
Marketing martial arts is kind of one of the more ridiculous things out there, I think, personally, because it's just, it always looks so stupid when you get these people.
In the 70s, it was one thing, but like just to up, I think we're past that now.
Where you're making a guy like, you're grimacing as you grab someone's throat or something.
The deadly strikes or whatever. I think, that had to go the way of the dodo, unfortunately.
It's kind of silly, but whatever. Yeah. So this is more like highbrow kind of.
Right. This is the antidote to that.
Nice paintings on the front and, like.
Yeah, he always did a great job. Great mag. So the next section, Marcus Brinkman's talking about his training with Master Xiang in Taiwan, the great Tai Chi Xingyi Bagua master whose martial arts have filtered their way over to the West over decades and continues to be a big source of what we do. So his next question for Marcus is this: is it true that Master Hong's martial demonstrations were often brutal? And that's a loaded question because Master Hong was just well known for his application and his hard hits that he would deliver with aplomb. So the answer is this: yes, but I never saw anyone suffer any serious injury. Students, however, often felt the need for a spinal adjustment after one of Hong's demos, which Hong himself would usually provide. So there you go.
That's
he never
nice.
did any permanent damage, but it gave you a spine adjustment afterward.
Whip your ass around.
Yeah. So he says, pai da, patting of the body, and nie, plucking of the flesh and tendons under the scapula or hidden deep within the armpits, would send fleeting shocks along the nerve branches. After a few of those treatments, just the thought of Hong's prodding hands had the power to revive you. Hong was a Chinese doctor specialized in Dai Da Sun Shang, trauma or hit medicine. So he was a great person to have around if there was an occasional injury. He used a lot of massage and bone setting techniques. I believe these skills also embellished his impressive power and grappling skills as well. And this is a topic we've talked about a lot. Like, there's something about that Tuina skills and the ability to grab flesh that's such a great crossover, especially with internal martial arts, with all the grabbing and pulling and whipping and slapping that's
Mm-hmm.
done.
The way Vince put it to us was, if you hurt the people you're training with, you don't have people to train with. So this is a way to keep, the people you're banging on healthy enough that you
Right.
can keep banging on
Keep
them,
them coming back
basically.
for
Yeah,
more.
which is useful.
Yeah, I love how he says that just the thought of his hands had the power to revive you. So
Right.
you're
Just,
like,
yeah.
ouch, that hurt. And then you see him coming towards you, like, no, actually, it doesn't hurt that bad.
Right,
I
right,
feel a lot
right,
better
right.
all of a
I'm
sudden.
okay. Yeah.
No. And in training with Kumar is one of the few people I've trained with who incorporates Tui Na as part of the martial arts, like part and parcel. So you will do two-person and three-person exercises with people, which involve holding or pulsing their joints or pulling part of their flesh and their fascia or manipulating a joint to do a movement. And like, say you're doing bagua and you're doing you're holding out your arms as you walk. Well, he'll have one person hold the elbow in one place and then another person maybe pulse the palm or the wrist as they're doing it. And like, I find that incredibly valuable. If you incorporate, it's hard to draw a line between actual Tuina massage technique and the martial arts teaching. But there was even a class where he had us do like, hip massage and thigh massage and knee massage as part of our Bagua training. The body rubbing of the even the front of the body and the visceral organs and stuff. Like, I think there's something amazingly powerful about that and useful. And he described it. It's kind of a shortcut to feeling it in yourself as doing it on other people and having them do it onto you. That's kind of what I think. And rather, like, I think of that as more the indoor way of training. Whereas if you're in the park following the teacher and everyone just doing the moves from a distance, that's one thing. But if the indoor training is when you're with your teacher at his house and a couple other people and you're making physical contact and moving and squishing each other to actually make stuff happen inside you and or with your muscles and your arms and your limbs and stuff. Like, I think it can be really, really helpful and valuable.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's when you're talking about being able to feel stuff, it having somebody do it on you or do it and let you feel it on them, right? Gives you a visceral sense of what it's supposed to feel like that you can try to replicate when you do it.
Right.
And then the sort of Tuina martial art connection is it's the same, roughly the same amount of strength, the same amount of sensitivity, and the same amount of awareness to do them. It's just different intent, right? So, if I twist it one way and release your joint, it's going to feel good. If I twist it the other way and lock it, it's going to feel bad. But
Exactly.
from my perspective, it takes roughly the same amount of effort. One of the main reasons people tense up is to try to get feedback. And if you have someone else touching you, you don't need to tense up to get feedback. You can just use them.
And I mean, I suppose you could get all this from applications and push hands, but there's something about slowing down and doing it with that tween-on mentality that I think if you combine that with doing applications and solo, now you got a triangulation going on that helps you see it from another perspective that I don't know. I really struck me as part of Kumar's school how much he incorporates that into it because he is majorly into body work for a long time and trained it in a ton.
There's three main modalities for doing this kind of stuff, which is you can do it in massage, you can do it in push hands, or you can do it in martial arts. And again, it's mostly the intent that's different and sort of the level of technique or whatever. Like that, there's a difference between being able to jiggle somebody's arm to get their shoulder to relax a little bit versus knowing how to fix stuff in someone who has a dislocated shoulder or, broken arm or something, and know how to set the bone. I mean, those are very different levels of knowledge, right?
I think the easiest way to teach is just everyone does a form and nobody touches each other. That's just the easiest thing to do. Then you can do it with applications, and some people are going to trip on that. But people trip the most when it comes to those healing Tuina type stuff. And if you get paired with someone who sucks, that's kind of lame because they're doing it too hard, or like they're
Right.
weird or creepy. Like if you're a girl and they're doing it on
Yeah.
you like weird or whatever, like it just creates an emotional potential for some weird stuff to happen. But like it's risky, but it's worth it because that's just such a shortcut to feeling stuff so much more stronger. Because I've been in plenty of classes that were taught with no contact, just forms. Everybody's feeling safe and secure, and that's cool. But it's like you've got to risk more to get a higher reward. Ours isn't a very touch-based society, right? We're all kind of a little,
Hmm.
people aren't used to like touching and hugging. And for some people, it really triggers them. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just also, I mean, I think the thing of like, we don't really have um therapeutic body work is not really a big part of Western culture.
Mm-mm.
It's like there's,
Surgery and pills, kind of.
well, or it's sexual, I think. And
Mm.
so, there's this thing of like, well, if a man grabs your arm and starts twisting your muscles around to get you to be able to move your shoulder is kind of invasive. And if you're not used to doing that, it can be, people can misinterpret it in all kinds of
Right.
ways. I mean,
And the martial arts side of it that's so important is like if you want to internal martial arts isn't about using your arms as 2x4s to clobber somebody. You need sensitivity and connection in order to pluck somebody or hook somebody or connect to somebody. The whole point is to, when your flesh hits theirs, you lightly connect to them, twist and pull them off balance in some way. If you do Tuina and hand-to-hand manipulations, you're going to be way better than that, way better at that when the time comes to grasp somebody, and you're more comfortable with gripping
well,
somebody, and your hands will naturally just sink in at just the right spot so you can tug them and catch them.
when he said the thing about the gripping the armpit or whatever, I had a
Mm.
visceral kind of reaction because I
You
remember,
jumped a little.
well, I remember both when Bruce showed it as a martial art thing and when Vince did it on me as a um Tuina thing. I mean, that ability to go inside somebody is uh it's what both of the internal martial arts and the internal healing arts are all about, right? So it's like there's a reason why people like Hung Xiang and Liu Hung Jie did both, because they feed each other in a sense.
Totally.
It's like a lot of
So there's
people
a
do.
special relationship there.
I mean, a lot of people also would do, and maybe not do Tuina, but they might do acupuncture, or they might do, some
Right.
other discipline that,
And in
because
Japan, shiatsu and stuff is associated with karate or some or
Mhm.
aikido or whatever. So there's that
Yeah,
connection's pretty common.
yeah, it's just, or nowadays, a lot of, people do like whatever, like physical therapy, and they do
Hmm.
judo or whatever. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it makes sense to understand the body on a, healing, quote unquote, level if you also want to understand how to break it.
So now the questioner wants to know, what was Master Hong's training regime like day to day? Which is an interesting question. Like, what was his class like? So he says
Mm.
a big part of Hong's training regime was Zanzhuang, standing meditation. He pushed us to stand in San Tisher well beyond the burning phase.
Mm.
As Hong pushed our limits during these standing sessions, I secretly wondered why I would pay someone to torture me. In time, however, I began to look forward to this labor. My overall health seemed to improve, my mind seemed sharper, and my body felt stronger. Gradually, we integrated static postures from Xingyi's metal fist, Pichuan, into our standing. Hong stressed long body and deep stances while holding these postures. He also insisted upon an extreme corkscrewing momentum within them, such that the body could find no resting place. Holding these extended postures challenged the will. Simultaneously, from the corkscrewing movement, drilling began to emerge. Eventually, the postures became smoothly integrated until drilling revealed the natural rise, fall, and overturn of Pichuan. So that's a pretty cool thing. So he's a big part of it was the standing practice and holding Santi, but then also the other bit by
Right.
bit pieces of Pichen that you've got to hold.
Well, I mean, I again have a visceral reaction to that because you can see it in the video in the BBC thing. Hung does it. He counts it out for them, and that's exactly how Bruce would do it. And it was this thing where he would hold the E, and you were supposed to like hold that position until he stopped making that
So for a
sound.
couple seconds, you just
Yeah.
hold the spot.
And one night it was about 12 minutes in each position. So
Ooh.
we did Peachman twice in an hour. So we did it on one side, it took a half hour, and then we did it on the other side, it took a half hour.
Ouch.
But it was, that idea that first you develop the sort of basic structure in Santi, and then you kind of use those other postures to develop that internal cohesion, right? Like this internal connections, all this stuff. I think that's what he's referring to with the twisting and then once that's solid, you're able to kind of move as one unit, and then things start
Hmm.
to kind of
And not every
emerge.
school does it this way, but it definitely seems like the students of Hong Xiang have a standing as part of the procedure for sure in holding each of the different postures along the way. Some more than
Well,
others,
and I
especially
think,
Kumar loves it.
I mean, Wang Shujing was even more in this
Oh yeah, he was
thing.
into it too,
Like,
huh? Yeah.
um,
Because he's from Yichuan as well, so yeah, he's
mhm,
obviously a standing
right. So
fanatic.
it's that,
I love well beyond the burning phase.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's where burning, quote unquote, is usually the sense of nerve, like your nerve starting to fire. And if you can go through that, that's when the real sense of, letting go starts to happen. So
Hmm.
it's um, not push through it, but just kind of ride the wave of it. And eventually you just get to this point of things start to release. But, it takes a while.
And I'm thinking of the twisting he's talking about. So in Pichen, you sort of gather and then you drill forward and hold yourself in a pretty twisted position. And he's like saying, well, you hold that for a long time, and then along the way, eventually that twisting just becomes ingrained within you. So the Pichen naturally transforms into Zhuanchuan, the second movement of Xingyi, which is all about drilling. It's almost
Right.
like each of the elements creates the next one by training it. It leads you into the next one. I mean, the Bagua system we learned is also the same way. Like the skills in the first palm getting the better you get at them, the more they become second palm and then third, and then each of them contains the seed of the next one, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I think the twisting like that is the primary kind of way you transfer force through your body is through twisting.
Mm-hmm.
So in Shingy especially, it's really a big part of how you gain stability is you learn how to twist the soft tissue of your body around the bones, right? So there's this
Makes them stronger,
yeah, this constant sort of back and forth, and it makes it where you get this sort of tensile strength from it,
yeah.
where
Mm-hmm.
it's not your muscles that are getting bigger, but the the tendons, the ligaments, the spaces between your joints are developing this cohesion and this integration.
Yeah, it helps you I mean, I'm reflecting on that. I'm thinking about how P, that downward sort of chopping with the palm, is kind of the least twisted of them all. And then you get into Zhuan and Bung, and by the end, Hung Chuan is the most twisted, where your body's counter twisting against your arm, which is at a maximum twist too, where it's sort of a weird looking move, but like you're about as twisted up as you possibly can be.
Yeah, I mean,
And that's a strong, creates great strength by doing that, I think.
yeah, I mean there's definitely a progression as you go through them for sure, but the again, it's just like twisting is it replace it's what replaces clenching,
Mm.
right? So where in an external martial art you would tighten your joint at the end of or your muscles at the end of a punch, or as you pull it back you would contract, right? in an internal martial art, you twist, right? So you twist in, you twist out, you twist in, you bend, you
Hmm.
stretch. But there isn't this thing of clenching, right? So when you want the effect of a uh, withdrawal, you twist quickly, right?
Either going in or out. You got to twist
Yeah.
to get that strength, kind of. Yeah. I like
So
how he says you can't find any resting place. So like if you were standing in one of those Santi or Pichen positions, you might be tempted to just kind of stand there. But if you add all that extra twist to it while you stand there, it becomes exhausting to just stand in one place.
yeah, but it also makes it see again, I think that there's a thing that happens when you do it for a little while is it something lets go, I guess is the only way I
Hmm.
can describe it, where the twisting isn't a contraction. And this is where a lot of people, I think, misinterpret the idea of an inward twist is not where you clench your body. It's just letting everything twist in. And it doesn't actually involve any tension. And when you start to do that in and out and in and out, it has an effect on your internal organs. That's probably the
Hmm.
biggest thing. Has an effect on your spine and, like I said, all your soft tissue. So it's really the
Even the
way.
bones, I think it affects, from what I've heard and read, like by twisting the musculature, it helps strengthen the bones too.
Remember we was talking about in last episode, we talked about the swinging power and all that. Again,
Swinging power.
how you start developing that twist is you first have to get the looseness, right? And then that twisting will happen. Like I said, I mean, the way Vince Black described it was he was talking about it as in terms of Tuina, but he said, it's like if you hold a chicken leg by the bone, you can grab the meat and sort of twist it back and forth a little bit, right? Where the bone isn't moving, but the meat's kind of going. That's what you're doing if you're doing it to yourself,
Hmm.
right? And he said, or you can grab the meat and rip it off the bone, and that's what you do to someone else, right? But
Fair enough.
both of those involve a twist, right? That the same twist again. I mean, it's the same twist that I would do to open up my own body or right to get my joints to connect or whatever. If I
Boy.
if I put that into my hand into someone else, it's gonna rip. So
Well, so the next question. What specific postural alignments did Hong address in teaching Santisha? So he says chicken foot serves as a reminder to keep the weight on the back leg. Oh yeah, we are just talking about chicken. So yeah, chicken foot. Um, Dragon waist serves as a reminder to feel for the true rotation of the waist. This prevents arching at the lower back hinge and helps to unify the upper and lower halves of the body. Bare shoulders serves as a reminder to keep correct tension through the scapular region of the back. This connects the arms through the back and shoulders while closing the chest center line. And finally, tiger neck serves as a reminder to eliminate the cervical arching and to extend through the crown point. This slightly tractions the spine from above. Practically speaking, these postural alignments naturally adjust the body in relation to the three external harmonies, Y, San, He, coordination of wrist, ankle, elbow, knee, and shoulder, waist. Hung also paid particular attention to the nuances of the hand shape. So that's interesting. So those are those sort of five animal, well, in this case, there's four of them here. Um, Chicken foot, dragon waist, bear shoulders, tiger neck, using those animal allusions and sort of metaphors of animal shapes to remind you of the postural requirements of Santi.
yeah, I mean it's a nice little memory, thing or whatever. Because basically it's like um the as far as the upper body is it's the Hong Sheng Babe, right? Raising the spine, dropping the chest. That's the what do you call it? Tiger and bear, I think.
Kind of, yeah.
Um, and then the
Sinking the
sense,
shoulders and elbows, yeah.
right? And then the sense of sort of wrapping around and all, that sort of um, turtle shape that we would call it, right? That you getting that sense of tucking your hips a little bit, tucking your shoulders a little bit.
Sink the shoulders, drop the elbows, yeah.
Yeah, and the Liu Tung Si Kwa, right? The wrapping the hips to get the pelvis to sink a little bit.
So that would be that dragon waist
Right,
concept
that's the
of,
dragon waist.
yeah, sort of figuring out where to set the lower back rather than swaying it or whatever, tucking the pelvis, kind of figuring that out.
Yeah, it's using your hips instead of your lower back, basically. Your waist instead of your lower back. Um,
Yeah, Santi is a great place to do all that because you just got to stand there. So you need something to do with your mind while you're standing there, or you'll go crazy.
well, I mean, and this is again, this is I think one of those things we don't really have context for in the West, that something happens to your body if you stand in these postures. It slightly changes, the like it starts to grow these connections internally, and it the longer you do it, the stronger they get, and it's why um Bruce said that of all the guys he met in China, he said the Tai Chi guys were the healthiest, right? The Bagua guys were the best, sort of kept their martial abilities the longest. They said the Xingyi guys were the strongest the longest. Because of the standing practices, that kept them strong till the day they died, and it was this thing of like, I think part of what standing does is it just keeps um that energy running through your body. And if you do the martial arts and the Neigong properly, they do it too. But I think when you just put yourself in a position, hold it, breathe, and try to let these natural connections do their thing, something special happens. And it's why nobody can explain it, but it happens. And my favorite one is from Wang Shengzai, who was the founder of Yichen, talking about how he was doing it with his teacher. And he said, why? I don't know why I'm doing this. Why am I? Basically, what Mark said, why am I paying this guy to torture me?
Right.
And the teacher said, well, you won't have to ask me when you know it, you'll know. And essentially, and that's
You
pretty
never get a
much,
straight answer from these guys.
well, and especially with standing, because it's like there really isn't, you can't put your finger on exactly the moment that it happens, but there's an integration, a cohesion that happens, and it doesn't stop happening, but there's a moment where a time where you feel like, oh, this all of a sudden this doesn't feel bad anymore. It doesn't necessarily feel great, but it like you like you said, you start to look forward to it. You start to enjoy the feeling of how things move inside your body, not just moving your body, right? And I think that's a pretty unique thing to Xingyi. I mean, not that many martial arts hold postures like
Yeah.
that. Tai Chi and Bagua do it a little bit, but
Yeah,
not
yeah.
not much. It's kind of Xingyi's like,
Yeah.
thing is to,
You combine it with fast movements too at times, but the standing is such a foundational practice for Xingyi
yeah, yeah, as a
across the
as a
board.
but as a way of developing uh,
Power.
power, or whatever you want to call it. It is pretty unique. I mean, most martial arts would have you do a movement over and over and over first, right? Like to get power in a movement, you would just repetition. And Xingyi does that as well, but it adds this thing of, okay, well, take the position you're going to end up in and just hold it there, hold your body in that position, and sort of train yourself to be in that position, until it, something clicks, right? And it's much the way like a musician might work on how they hold their bow, like a violinist or something might work on how they hold their bow, where it's not, you're not doing the action part of it. This is the inaction part of it. This is the part where there's other things that happen when you do stuff other than the physical part. And this kind of, this is the E part of the Xingyi, right?
Mm.
So
So now let's go back to Blurred Boundaries by Hong Zihan, the book about Master Hong's biography written by his son that's an amazing and in-depth look at life in Taiwan all through the 50s till the end of Master Hong's life in the 90s. So where we left off, Mr. K, aka BK Francis, had just gotten done with a challenge match at Master Hong's school that ended with Master Hong telling someone to find someone to take care of him. Master Hong Yishang couldn't bear to see Mr. K's misery and asked the assistant instructors to help him. Wait a minute, don't move him, said his son Hong Zizhou. Don't move him. He made a special trip to see if we lived up to our reputation, isn't it so? Let him savor the moment a little longer. Let him really remember this feeling. Then he won't go everywhere stirring up trouble.
Hey folks, if you'd like to hear the rest of the episode, you can follow the link to the Patreon, get the full episode ad-free as well as the bonus episode and the entire archive of all our stuff. We also have a Facebook page and an Instagram to go along with the episodes where you can see images. Take care of yourselves, thanks for listening, and be well.